Sustainable living is a lifestyle that attempts to reduce both an individual and a society's use of the limited Earth's natural resources. Practitioners of sustainable living often attempt to reduce their carbon footprint by altering the methods of energy consumption, transportation, and food. Towards sustainable living, bamboo has been acclaimed as an excellent example. Bamboo products are eco friendly as long as they haven't been chemically processed. Since bamboo is 100% natural, it goes back to nature through the process of decomposition very quickly. Bamboo is a grass and is extremely adaptable and resilient, and it has greatly helped in the sustainable living efforts. Prashant is a social entrepreneur from Hyderabad and the co-founder of Bamboo House India. With 15 years experience in the social business, he is currently with the United Nations Development Programme Plastic Waste Management Project. His current social initiative is on the burning issue of plastic waste and is involved in developing low-cost shelter solutions with plastic waste and trying to give a second lease of life to waste plastic and provide fair price and enhance livelihood opportunities to waste picker communities. He has been named among the world's 100 social entrepreneurs, bringing a change with his work. He is credited with building the world's first recycled plastic house and has developed several innovative products with plastic waste, scrap tires, drums, bicycles, textile waste, etc. His innovative social business models have touched numerous livelihoods. He has received multiple professional recognitions, such as the Green Entrepreneur of the Year Award, the Pride of Telangana Award, Zee Social Business Award, Excellence in Social Entrepreneurship, CII Contribution to Bamboo Industry, Innovation in Plastics Award, and many more. Thank you so much, Prashant, for joining us today for Threading Thoughts. It's really, really nice to have you on our podcast, and I know you're a very busy person, but thank you so much for willing to share your expertise as well as your knowledge with us.
Oh, thanks a lot, Mudula, for having me on your show and taking your time off with so many. I can understand how women, have to go through the whole day, and you have added this also on you. So I'm really thankful to you.
That's very kind of you. I wanted to start off with, given a little bit of our lack of knowledge perhaps of bamboo, with over 1,000 species of bamboo, how detrimental is this invasive exotic species to local flora and fauna? Because that's also reports that have come out. Whether they're true or not, we would love to hear from you.
First thing for the general audience, the most important thing which we generally get a question is, you're spoiling the forest. The most important thing everybody says, just for your business, you are, completely eroding the forest. But I wanted to share on a larger through your platform. Bamboo is a grass. It is not a tree. The more we cut, it is better. See, for example, if we cut a tree or a hardwood, it will take around 20-25 years for it to regrow.
Exactly.
Whereas if it's bamboo, per day, it can grow up to 4 feet also. There are few species can go up to such a high length also, but it's a little less, but it grows very fast. And after every 36 months, it's ready for harvest.
Right.
So, and if you don't harvest, it is in fact a harm to the bush. It should be harvested on a cycle. So that is the most important thing one has to understand. We are not spoiling the forest cover. We are not doing it.
That's great. And it's also known for its ecological stability, right, and soil
Yes.
conservation. So, given
Yes.
it's known for this ecological stability and soil conservation, how can bamboo be incorporated into, say, an urban lifestyle, not just a rural economic stability and housing tool, but more into urban life?
See, for example, yearly our government has a tree plantation drive on a regular scale. So we have been fighting it very hard to, urban administrators to include bamboo as a plantation activity in urban areas because of, the various parameters and the, technicalities it serves. But somehow it has always remained in rural areas or forest areas. So, otherwise, few people in urban areas plant in their garden one or two bushes. It
Right.
really won't serve much of a purpose. It should be in the mainstream plantation drive of the country. So that somehow is not happening. I don't know, but yeah, recently we have also heard that Ministry of Highways is looking to plant bamboos on both the sides of highways.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so Mr. Nitin Gadkari's teams, we keep talking to them. That is a larger agenda of the government for ensuring it is used widely and it gains visibility, which is not right now. It's not visible right now. So it has so many benefits, but somehow it's not getting used.
Yeah, and that is very true because for most of us, at least in urban settings, our buildings or anything that we use is more, cement, mortar, brick, things like that. So, or hollow bricks, just to make it easier for us. But bamboo is not something that we have seen widely used, which actually
Yes.
leads to my next question because I wanted to talk about prefabricated housing, given that, that is a much easier way of setting up, much quicker and efficient way of setting up houses. So what are the biggest challenges you sort of face with prefabricated housing? How did you first come up with these ideas, especially in the sense of using bamboo? And what further help in the form of regulations and approvals could aid more of these? That might be part three. But more interestingly, how do you bring this into from a concept to something on the ground that you can see?
Okay, the main reason why bamboo, despite we are 70-year-old country, despite has never taken into the mainstream building material is bamboo by default is grows in forest. So we don't see bamboo plantations much in urban areas. So that is first reason. Secondary is most of the communities are in far-fetched areas in rural and tribal areas who are dependent on bamboo. Even their work doesn't come to the urban areas. So we urbanites have never seen the potential and possibilities of bamboo. So this was the gap which we noticed when we started our journey. There is a raw material because see, India is the second largest producer of bamboo in the world after China, but it's stuck in forest areas and people are stuck in forest areas. So that was the gap. We felt that okay, let us work out a model where we can bring this to urban areas.
Right.
But yeah, in housing, yes, the main reason why it is not used in housing is see, everything is a business model in urban areas. So one apartment might rapidly get finished in 3 months or 6 months nowadays. The speed is so high. If it's even if it's 750, 800 house apartment, they can finish in 1 year or 2 years.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, because it's a kind of speed urban economy offers, but the same is not with bamboo or any other handcrafted. Anything handcrafted takes time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So nobody has time for these things. They want aaj invest kiya, I should get the return in 1 year. But whereas in bamboo, it takes time, and nobody has time in urban areas. So these,
Yeah. So say this is I would assume as a more as a prefabricated or
yes, it's a prefab model. So I'll just explain you very fast for the viewers. So in this earlier we used to the whole skeleton which was use. You can see the yellow painted skeleton is metal. Earlier the whole skeleton was also made with bamboo, round bamboo, the natural bamboo from the forest. But as you know, there are several restrictions of transporting bamboo from the forest because there is a forest act.
true.
So the raw bamboo was extremely challenging for us. So we converted that into a metal frame. So all the walling part, the bamboo mat weave which you see, it is a walling. So the walling, flooring, roofing, minus the roof sheet, the false ceiling, flooring, walling, everything is made with bamboo. There's a hand woven mat where the women members, the male members of the house goes to forest
Uh-huh.
and they, yeah, so the male members will go to the forest and the women members at the house will work on the bamboo, make it a thin sliver, and then a mat is built up and then it goes to a factory for a press. From the factory we get back in Hyderabad, and those are the walling, false ceiling and flooring material which is used as bamboo.
Okay.
So yeah, so you can see this. This is the interiors of the same house where the flooring the client decided he'll go with his choice. The walling and roofing you can see it's completely made with bamboo. So each board is
Wow.
around 8 mm thick. 8 mm thick is the board. So every board has 8 to 10 mats. Each mat takes two bamboo pole. One mat gives employment to two people. So one house for me gives around employment to 125 people per day. So it's highly labor intensive activity, starting from the forest to the urban carpenter, in the electrician, the drivers all involved. It's a massive activity of employment. So yes, so as you know, when I'm trying, so you see, it takes me some time to build a house because everything is hand
True.
manually. It has to be cut, and yeah, so I can only make one house in a week.
Huh.
So per year I can't make then 50 houses, but In 1 year, 50 houses is too slow for urban economy.
The fans, and it's almost like a pakka,
Yeah.
the
Yes,
stability
and the
you're
life
talking
is
about.
around 30 years. Life is around 30 years minimum. It's completely waterproof, fireproof, termite proof. So yeah, so mostly our targets are penthouses, farmhouses. Mostly these two. Terrace houses are our main targets.
But what about the costing, though? I mean, the economics of.
Okay, so it generally is around, say, in terms of square feet. If I say it is around 1,000 rupees per square feet, that is your cost. So I don't know. A lot of people say it's cheap. A lot of people say it's very expensive. For those who say it is cheap, we are happy it is cheap for you. But those who say it is very expensive, so we try to explain them. Just imagine a farmer or somebody artisan going to the forest in a high terrain of northeast and bringing cutting bamboo and bringing all the way on his shoulders to the home, and his wife weaving into a mat, then it going to a factory. See, there is a cost involved, and for us, minimum each of our team member or employer artisan at the back end also should at least get 20,000 rupees a month.
Right.
That's, yeah, we can't squeeze them, for that. So these are the costs involved, and there is a process involved. So that's why it's slightly expensive for those who feel it's expensive.
Makes complete sense. This is quite fascinating because it's a very comfortable lodging. Of course, you can make it bigger as well. I'm
Oh,
assuming.
yes.
I mean, it depends on the
Yes, yes.
frame, right? And the
Yeah, so our lowest size is 8 by 8, that is 64 square feet. It's, the very small house, and the largest we have done is 10,000 square feet.
Oh,
So in
wow.
between, yeah, in between any size.
Oh, that's quite large. And regulation wise, what do you feel about the regulation wise? Is there something that the approvals or the regulations could they help? Because that leads into my next question as well. Because how economic is it for entrepreneurs to engage in bamboo cultivation and products? Because as you said, this is so labor intensive.
Yes.
That is a major challenge for a lot of people. So how?
So, yeah, see, lot of entrepreneurs keep reaching out to us that they want to get into it, they want to get into housing or bamboo and all. So first thing is what we have learned from our journey is, so the most important thing is this is more a kind of a social business, because you are not working with systems, you're working with people,
Right,
that too artisans and farmers, and who are not as advantageous financially as we are.
right.
So we need to be patient with them, then we need to train them, and when you don't have a business, you still need to support them. You can't be a capitalist in bamboo. It's very difficult to be a capitalist in bamboo. So it's a social business, and if somebody is purely doing for commercial reasons, then bamboo might not be the thing. They have a lot of options in urban areas. So it has to more a social business where you're trying to advocacy is a part of your campaign. You're fighting the forest loss. You have to build a model. So one needs to have a little bit of patience and very people sensitive, because you're working with communities and they need your support. They need, because people in urban areas are more, whatever reason we have advantages which they don't have.
Right.
So they need hand holding. So all these makes it little difficult journey. But once your model is set, then the revenues will start.
Very, very true. And what about help from, say, the regulations or policies? Have they, as you said, Forest Act, right? I mean, there are multiple like these that are quite difficult to overcome. Where do you see
Yes.
sort of a help coming from that direction? Or what modifications would you suggest, saying that, this is on the ground reality, so this could help?
Yes, on the grounds, there are quite a lot of challenges and struggles. The biggest challenge we have seen that, like, we started in 2006, and till date, there is no other entity aggressively building bamboo houses. So that throws the message that things are very challenging in the sector. Means 15 years, not even 10 entrepreneurs is enough a message. So one thing is what we would generally expect is government stocks the raw material, not asking the artisan or the farmer to go to forest and cut yourself.
Mm,
That is not possible. So there has to be a proper warehousing where, for example, we have FCI godowns.
right.
We have FCI food godown. Like that way there can be, and there is a minimum support price where bamboo is purchased. That is not there
Correct.
in bamboo. So your basic logistics are the problem. And third is these two want so that, for example, I am a small artisan who doesn't even 400 rupees a day, expecting me to buy bamboo worth 10-15,000, but
True.
it doesn't work out.
True.
So these operational challenge needs to be addressed by the government. And last is the GST.
Hmm.
The wine is 18%, bamboo is 18%. So I think there should be some. Please respect our
Some.
artisans. We expect some respect to our artisans, not with the bar contractor of city. They put it on the same line, both of them.
Yeah, I completely hear you. As an artist, I've faced enough of it as well. But
Yeah.
one thing that is very interesting is you've talked about some of the things that are happening, the challenges as well, and where you see there could be betterment. But where do you see the future of sustainable livelihood per se, from say a 10,000 feet view? Where do you see sustainable?
Okay, this is another initiative which we started in 2017. So this is an entire house made out of plastic waste. This has been made with milk packets by processing all the milk
Oh,
packets which we throw from our house.
oh wow.
Yeah, so this has taken around 1500 kgs of milk packets. So yeah, this is the side view, and yeah, this is the frontal view. So this frame, even the roofing, walling, flooring, false ceiling, completely is with plastic waste.
Oh my
All
God,
milk
that's.
packets. Yeah, it's completely
But
with milk packets, and yeah, please.
hey, but that quickly brings me to this question. How difficult do you find to source the recycling? Because I recycle very, very ardently, but I find it so difficult for some of these vendors on the streets. They won't pick up milk packets saying that there is absolutely no incentive. So I actually threw bags of milk packets away and it really, really upset me. But is there some
Oh,
sourcing that you do?
yes, Mudra. Like the biggest thing is for any individual, if he or she is living in an independent house, it's a challenge. But the same thing, if you're in an apartment, there is a gated community. There, the entire community has to come together and say every day morning, all our milk packets will be stored at X point.
Correct.
And when it becomes X number of kilos, we will call somebody, because nobody will come for one packet, two packets. It's
Yeah,
not feasible, the transportation cost. So for us, we work in the municipal dumping grounds where all our wet waste and dry waste goes to the common point at the municipality. There we work with waste pickers who collect it, and then it goes to a wholesalers from the entire city. And the wholesaler can give me 60 tons or 100 tons, but individual can never give me that much stuff.
absolutely. That volume will
Yeah,
never be there.
yes, volume will never come. So for us as a business model, volume is very important. Otherwise, our economics doesn't fall in place. So we have a system of complexes where we, work with rack pickers and waste pickers and kabadi walas and everybody in the system. We collect, we process. Then we get back the finished sheets. These are 8x4 sheets, just like plywood.
Right.
And then we get back, and then it goes for housing.
But
So
this,
as far as sustainability, as your first question, you said on a larger view. So one thing I am in understanding that our greed has really taken the environment beyond repair. Means we no more believe what our parents used to do, because for them money was one part, but for us money is the only part. Growth, success, money, greed. In all this, nobody has time for environment.
and this is
So
interesting,
for me,
right?
yeah.
This concept of our constant lack of awareness of environment, or being giving back to it, is, I think, at least now there is some sort of movement that's coming up. This is also interesting. For example, you've just completely pivoted and started furniture as well, which looks lovely.
Yeah, so this is again a completely handmade furniture made by women. So it takes around 20 days for 3 women to bring to this form. Back end, of course, men are involved because that's a heavy thing they need to get from the forest. So this is add-on. So again, same logistics problem. Nobody wants to invest. There's no go downs, and nobody wants to give time, because Amazon has made life so easy. On a click of a button, they want this. But we say we need 45 days. Nobody has
45
time for
days.
45 days. They want a snap of a second. What can we do? We can't give. So
Instant
yeah,
gratification.
instant grad, and they don't understand my poor artisan doesn't have such a big space to keep all these things.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
And
yeah. So
and in fact, one more
it's
interesting thing is that you again a pivot, right? This is phenomenal.
yes. So this we are working on. It's almost over. We are just readying for a March launch. So we have an entire range of smaller bamboo products, starting from a toothpick to house. We want to cover everything. And the main reason for venturing into this, post-COVID, a lot of my community members had a financial issues. So even our housing market took a hit for a few months. So we initially decided we should migrate into smaller products also, so that my artisan's kitchen keeps running for me.
Ah,
So this
yeah.
is, yeah. So for me, for all of us, we have to ensure my artisan's kitchens keep running. So we need to keep, figuring out what to do.
No, that's so true. My other question was, how do you source your bamboo? Is it from completely different locations? Does it need to be state specific? Is there some issue with that?
Yes. Yeah, it is product specific actually. If I'm making a toothpick, I'll go somewhere else. If I'm making a house, I'll go to some other location. If I'm making a basket, I'll go to Assam. So every region has a product because the species grow there only.
Right.
Yeah, so we decide on that, and again we need to look at who is skilled, what are the skill sets of the community, whether they can make this or not. So like that we divide.
What if it is just sourcing the bamboo? I mean, if it is, say, I have like
Uh,
5 acres and I say, okay, I can grow bamboo. You let me know what kind of bamboo, but I can just get the bamboo to you. Is that something possible? Is that something you're looking at?
See, for example, I won't lie, I'll be very blank and open. If somebody is looking to, grow bamboo, because they have a vacant land, but finally there has to be economic viability. Otherwise, there's no point. So today the biggest problem is if somebody growing 5 acres or 1 acre or 4 acres, they don't know where to sell.
Right.
The biggest challenge is what we call as market linkages.
Yes.
Where do you sell as a farmer? At least if you're growing paddy, you can approach somebody. But where do you go to bamboo? And the second biggest problem is already there are unused reserves in forest areas, unused bamboo reserve which has no market. So the system is still missing. That's what we have been advocating and fighting for. First, form a system, then artisans, entrepreneurs, farmers will keep growing like anything.
Right.
That cultish form, it's not coming because they don't know what to do. So we also don't push much for plantation.
Okay, that makes sense. But unless they can locally create a market for themselves, along with the support of artisans, it's quite challenging because you might not find these artisans at the locations where the bamboo is available. So
yes, so yeah, it's coming like in a chicken and egg.
yeah.
So if you have artisans, they don't have bamboo. If you have bamboo, that place does not have artisan. If there is artisan bamboo, there is no market. If there is market, there is no bamboo. So these are the challenges which needs to be addressed on a holistic level.
Absolutely. I think the environment has to be built. There is no environment which you're trying to build, but it's still a drop in the ocean.
It's just a drop in the ocean. So system has to be created first. Then automatically it will go on its own.
Yeah. Once it's developed, right? And
yes, once it's developed.
Find it, I think, at least something that they can work on. But
yes.
Thank you so much, Prashant. This has been so absolutely educative and very informative as well. And a lot of people's questions or misconceptions have been answered. I think that is critical.
Yes, that is very much critical because we come across a lot of entrepreneurs in say I want to get into plantation. So we don't want anyone to burn their money, their hard-earned money. So we don't want them, just take a random decision because they see our website and say you people have done, why can't I do? Yeah. It should not be like that. Yeah, they need to take a due diligence of because their shoe size is different, my shoe size is different. So they can't say you are walking, I'll walk in your shoes. So yeah, these things, hopefully through your show, I'm able to clarify at least few of the doubts.
I really hope so. It has been amazingly informative, and thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you so much.